What's up, everybody? In today's episode, we have a love letter to the Legend of Zelda.
And of course, we also have show and tell.
And we're going to open the box of mystery. All right. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the GenX Vault. I am Chris Mitchell.
And I am JT Kennedy.
And today, you've probably already noticed, it's not Rob that's here with me.
Nope.
That's right. It's my godson, which is Rob's actual son, JT. And actually, you've been talking about doing a show. You've been talking about doing a show with us since the beginning.
Yeah,
actually.
I think since I heard about the idea
of a podcast.
I was like, can I get started?
I want to get a piece on that action. Let's get a piece of that action.
Like, I'll hide in the trunk, and you just sneak me in.
Well, we finally snuck in after a year. That's right. Yeah. Well, I got to say, and I throw this out there, not to throw Rob under the bus and hit him with all the tires, but after last week's episode, he didn't feel good. Mm-hmm. So did you see how he did that intro?
Yeah.
He goes, and show and tell. And it was like, what the heck, dude?
Yeah, I could tell he was feeling a little under
He wasn't feeling good. So Rob, I'm sorry he didn't feel good that day, but he is okay. He's just happened to send his substitute today, so that's good. Well, okay, so today we're creeping up on that year anniversary for GenX Vault. Mm-hmm. So you get to do the penultimate episode before our year episode. That's kind of cool.
That's cool.
Yeah, very cool. That's right.
Yeah.
I like to use those big words like penultimate, next to last. Big college word for me. All right, sweet. All right, and JT and I have this. We have two things that we share that actually your dad and I don't share. And that's Zelda.
And my dad.
Zelda and G.I. I was thinking Zelda and G.I. Joe. And, when we talked about, I got you into into Zelda, right?
You did, because I remember it was when I was taking guitar lessons from Plaid Dot.
Okay. From me specifically.
Yeah, I was waiting on Mary Hannah to finish up. And I've been playing Smash Brothers, and that's like you got all Nintendo characters in it. And I've been seeing a character called Link and Zelda and Ganondorf, and I was like,
who are these?
Yeah, and in their little icons, they all have the same triangle symbol.
That's right, the Triforce.
And I noticed and that was like when I first started getting into online stuff and seeing what other people thought about games. Even it was just like basic stuff.
About how old were you when that happened?
I'd say like 11 or 12.
That's right, which is. I was 12 when I first played Zelda for the first, 11 or 12 when I played Zelda for the first time, but it was original. And that was when it was, brand new. Because originally it came out in 85, but on the Nintendo that we had, it was 86 is when I played it. So it was the same experience, that same kind of. In other words, we've been in love with Zelda since the preteen years.
Yeah, and I asked Chris, I said, hey, what is this like about? Like, what is Link and Zelda and Ganon? Like, what's that triangle thing mean?
I'm curious.
And he kind of gave me a look like if I just walked into a music store and was like, hey, there's this dude named Paul McCartney and like Ringo Starr. Like, what's up with them? Are they like a band or something?
Are they a boy band from the 60s?
What's going on? Like, this Teen Heartthrobs here?
That's right. That's right. Yeah. So I'm sure I gave you a hard time about it.
Yeah, you were like, holy shit, man. This is what are you doing? Like...
Let me tell. Hey, sit back and listen to my story.
Yeah,
I'm gonna make you an offer you can't refuse.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so I've got some questions for you. Actually, I actually pre-wrote some questions because I'm curious as to for those of you looking at the camera, knowing that this is Gen X Vault, will realize that JT is not Gen X. Do you know what generation you are?
I am I'm Generation Z.
You are Generation Z. Good job.
I'm a Zoomer.
Is that Zoomer? Is that what it's called? Zoom?
I think that's what they call it.
Zoomer.
Zoomer.
Why is it Zoomer? Zoom?
It's because whenever everyone started saying "Okay, Boomer."
And now everybody's.
I guess the old people retaliation is "Okay, Zoomer."
Okay, Zoomer. That makes sense. Okay, Zoomer.
I think I'm right on that.
That's probably accurate.
99% sure.
I could see it. Z to boom, B to Z, Boomer, Zoomer.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so you're definitely Gen Z. But Zelda is such it's in the video game world. For those of you who don't play, which I'm sure that at least the folks that are watching understand what Zelda is. But for the video game world, Zelda is just as iconic as Luke Skywalker is in the movie world, or Indiana Jones. It's one of those standout video games. It's not like not everybody has. It's just like even in your game when you were big time into Smash Brothers.
Mhm.
It even the Legend of Zelda, even though it's a Nintendo property, it's still creeping into pop
Yeah.
culture, and it's such an icon in the video game world that it stands alone as one of those games that really do stand the test of time. I mean, they've been making Zelda games for over 30 years.
Oh yeah.
So it's kind of that's hard to believe in the video game world. You have only a few characters like that: Mario, Zelda, maybe Donkey Kong,
Yeah.
and
Like Pokemon and things like that.
Pac-Man, a few others like that. But
Yeah.
they're not as big. Not as big. So that's cool. Yeah, definitely. It's a icon game. So okay, so the questions I'm going to go ahead and start out with some questions I have for you before we go into the nitty gritty of Zelda. All right, so what was the first Zelda game that you played?
I think off of your recommendation, because I've heard you talk about it so much, I went on the Wii.
The Wii U?
No, not the Wii U. I actually still had the Wii.
Okay.
I went on the Wii Virtual Console
Okay.
and I bought Majora's Mask
Okay, and
off of it.
I had recommended that one first.
Yeah,
Okay.
or no, you'd recommended that one because it was your favorite.
It was my favorite at the time.
And you said that might be what gets someone hooked.
Yeah, that's okay.
You recommended me Majora's Mask or Ocarina of Time.
Okay.
And I decided to go with Majora's Mask first. I remember I didn't get very far because I didn't have much patience when I was a kid.
In that game, you got to have a lot of patience. You got to have there's a lot of little things you got to do in that game. A lot of side quests with the masks and all that. Okay, so did you ever go back? You went back and played Ocarina finally.
I did, and I beat Ocarina.
Okay, good. Now the next question I have for you on that is, and you've told me this, and I've asked you this before. Mm-hmm. Did you cheat on the water temple?
I did not cheat on the water temple. I actually managed to find out
that where you have to go back down and get the
okay because I played on the 3DS version, and what that is like everyone talks about the iron boots, you gotta equip them on and off, and you gotta keep pausing,
right.
But on that version you can actually equip 4 items at once.
Really?
Yeah, so you can just tap a little icon on the screen and it'll tap on the boots on and off.
Oh wow! Okay, yeah. I didn't know that. I didn't know that the playability, but that makes sense.
So I was just like, okay, this has got to go much smoother. But then I got to the point where you have to remember what levels of the water need to be.
That's right.
What to access what at any given time, and I was like, okay, did I already do this, or do I need to raise it or lower it?
That's right. You have to really think about that in order. It's a huge puzzle solver for Zelda offers, in my opinion, 3 massive things that other games just don't offer in the same package. One is the puzzles, which is, a lot of games do that. Yeah. The second is the action adventure, which a lot of games do that. But the third one for me is the love that you feel. You actually care about the characters, the NPCs, as we like to say. Yeah. You care about those other characters that you can't play, that you just have to interact with. Or at least I feel like you do. I feel like you have to care about those characters.
Yeah, like I remember a standout moment for me with character was weirdly enough, in the game I've also beaten recently, Wind Waker, when Link finally faces Ganondorf.
Right.
Who, for those who don't know, Ganondorf's pretty much the big bad of the whole series.
Right.
He's the Vader or someone or the Emperor, I guess, of the.
And you actually, it's kind of funny. One thing that you do really a lot better than I do is your memory for the game knowledge is actually way better than me. And even though I have that Hyrule Encyclopedia, his memory is like a steel trap. So I've got a question to ask you, because this is something I get confused about from time to time. When I played the original Zelda, Ganon, it was only referred to as Ganon back then.
Yeah.
Is my understanding that's Ganondorf in his kind of pig-like form, or what is that? What that is?
Yeah.
Okay. Because I get even though I'm a huge Zelda fan, like a fanatic with the game, you got to remember when I played it at 12 years old, I didn't have used to video games used to come with a booklet. Mm-hmm. And have you ever seen any of those?
I actually have. Those are kind of cool looking through.
Have you seen some?
I've seen some. Okay, I've seen the descriptions because like the technology back then, you kind of needed some reference material,
absolutely,
for what this represents.
That's right.
Especially in the days of Atari and Nintendo.
Man, yeah, and Nintendo was the first game. Like the Zelda series was the first game where like when you, for example, I never will forget it when they showed you an Octorok or something like that in a game. You just, or a like or whatever it was.
Yeah.
You had to see the picture of it to see how those 8-bit pixels.
to how this translated into.
That's right.
Yeah, and sometimes it backfires when like you played Metroid Prime, right?
Yes. Oh God, yes. Yeah, love that game.
You know Ridley?
Yep.
The original Metroid for the Nintendo, his art in the manual shows him with like 8 eyes, all like going.
Oh really?
And he's not a pterodactyl at all. He looks so weird.
I haven't, and I played the original too, but actually my cousin Troy had it, and we never did beat it. So I mean, it was like it was a platformer, and so you just had to.
It's kind of like Zelda in terms of like non-linearity. Right. Like, you kind of have to keep track of where you're going.
Yeah, that's right. Well, okay, so but back what we were talking about, what JT meant was, and what you're talking about that. So the video games back then, they came with the book, and you're right. They had to tell you so much of the backstory. And since Zelda was a new game, none of us knew any of it. Yeah. It was also the first Nintendo game that you could actually save. It had a battery in the compartment. It was gold, shiny gold, and it was the very first home console game that you could save because there was no hard memory in the NES.
Yeah, you had a password system for most games.
Yeah, and what they did was they put the memory in the actual cartridge. Yeah, in the cartridge. So we knew that told you right away, that set the stage as a 12-year-old. Oh my God, we're not going to be able to beat this game today. We're going to have to save this thing.
This thing's going to take a while.
Yeah, and you had no idea how long that thing was going to go. You had no idea, no frame of reference.
I think part of that's like, you got to remember people were coming off of Atari. And those were like games that you could beat, like, I guess.
Or that you could never beat.
Yeah, but like they were simple.
High score driven.
Yeah. And the ones that you could beat, you could usually beat very fast. So like people had to get used to a kind of story driven game that took a while to complete.
That's right. Yeah, it was the first the first big epic story game. Yeah. I think. Not to no disregard to Oregon Trail for those of you Commodore 64 survivors.
Yeah, no dysentery in Zelda though.
That's right, no dysentery. Okay, so I had another question for you. So let's see. You had played the okay, so let's walk through. I said that I played the original Zelda in '86 is when I played it. And me and my cousin Troy were the first kids to ever beat the game. We were the first ones. I never knew that anybody to beat the game prior to us. Nobody in Claxton Middle School had beaten the game.
No, he's just talking about in the whole world.
That's what I thought.
He was the first person to beat Zelda.
Okay, so let me tell you this. I don't know if I told you this or not. So me and Troy talked about this past week actually. I said, "Hey man," I said, we finally get there, that last part with Ganon, and as I like to say, shot that silver arrow straight up his ass, and he destroyed. And the funny thing is we're jumping all around, we're losing our minds. We've beaten Zelda, we had done the impossible task. We'd played that game for so long before. Our bodies actually hurt.
I remember you saying
like we were just staying like this and just staring at it, going,
and you go up and you're like, oh God, what's happening?
We couldn't move. We were catatonic for like 8 hours. Couldn't move. It was me, my cousin Troy, and Joe. So the funny thing is after we beat it, we would freaked out jumping wild. So we went to go let off some steam, and we're jumping on the trampoline like madmen. We're just bouncing on the trampoline. And Troy goes, "Hey man, I read that and now we can venture out to worlds unknown." And what I thought he meant by that was that he had read in the magazine that since we had beaten the game, we would be featured on a national television show called Worlds Unknown. Like we were unknown, but now we would be celebrities because we beat Zelda. That's literally what I thought. So I'm jumping, going, "Oh, that's amazing! That's amazing!"
Local Claxton boys beat Nintendo for the first time.
I know, 2 Claxton children beat the impossible Legend of Zelda. Back to you with the weather, James. And the funny thing is so we're about now we're both jumping on the trampoline, having different conversation. He means one thing, I mean something else, and and I literally think I'm about to be famous for beating Zelda. Well, when we get back in, and we fire up the console again. Link is wearing a white tunic instead. He's got a white tunic instead of the green tunic that you see him in. And so the funny thing about that is, okay, here we are with this white, and I'm like, finally Troy and I keep talking, and I'm like, oh wow, the maps are different. He goes, yeah, that's the countries unknown that you go to. And I went, oh, okay. We're going to venture on.
So he had been talking about the second quest.
That's right. He'd been talking about the second quest because he had read it in Nintendo Power. So back when I started, there was no internet. To get anything you had to have for a Nintendo game or any kind of video game, you had to either play it until you figured it all out, or you had to subscribe to things like Nintendo Power, read the manual, and you read the manual because you wanted to know what the backstory was. You wanted to know any hint you could possibly have because the graphics were limited. And the story just didn't always tell you everything. Didn't. So that was kind of the way it was. So that was my first Zelda experience. And then after that, I didn't play anything. I deliberately ignored Zelda because of the time constraints that I knew that it would take on me. Yeah. Because I was about, I don't know how old I was. I think I was about maybe 13 or 14 when the next one came out. But by the time I'd really seen them again, I'd already started playing guitar. And so I just knew I wouldn't have time. Now, I didn't pick it up again until Ocarina of Time, and I was student teaching, and I touched it for about 5-6 minutes at a friend's house, and I went, oh, no. I can't play this. If I do this, I'll fail student teaching. I literally, so I didn't play it, and I waited until I graduated, and then I bought it. And that's literally what I did. So tell me, mine were Legend of Zelda, the original, Ocarina of Time, and every console game since then, with the exception of that new Link's Awakening. I didn't play that one yet on the
on Switch
because it just feels weird for me to go back to that
2D.
That kind of approach. So tell me which ones you played.
I played the original Zelda.
You did play that.
Yeah, I did play it.
Did you beat it?
Did not beat it.
It's kind of hard.
Yeah, I was about to say I'm gonna emphasize the play part, not beat. I have beat. Okay, the ones I beat are Ocarina of Time, Wind Waker, and weirdly enough, Breath of the Wild.
You have beat Breath of the Wild, yeah.
So Breath of the Wild is not really difficult. It's not. Or I guess it is in the early hours, but like the more, like I wouldn't say like.
I agree with you. The more you play that game, the easier it gets. Yeah. Because your skill level gets better. Yeah. Most Zelda games are like that, but. Dude, in the beginning of that game, I was getting killed by red. What do you call it? Bokoblins. I was getting killed by red bokoblins. The guys with a 3, like a 30. Yeah, and they're worth nothing. And so
that's like getting for reference material. That would feel like getting your ass kicked by a Goomba.
Yeah, that's right. That first. Well, I saw a meme one time that it said that the most. The number one killer in any video game ever is that first mushroom that you encounter in Super Mario Brothers. Because when you very first play it, you don't know what it is. You just run slap into it.
Yeah, you're like, is this a power up?
That's right. It kills everybody. It's like the biggest mass murder in any video game history.
Yeah, someone actually deconstructed that whole opening level. Mm-hmm. Apparently, it's meticulously designed to teach players
how. It is. That opening level is a masterclass in how to teach players how to intuitively play video games.
Because in the first game, you've got a coin in one block that shows you coins. You can collect coins; they increase your score.
That's right.
Then you've got a Goomba you can run into. This is an enemy. Things on the floor that aren't me can probably kill me.
That's right.
And then you've got a power mushroom in the next block. Next to it, above the Goomba.
Oh, it's brilliant. It's so
brilliant. Okay, I can get a power up. And then there's other Goombas there, so if you do get hit, you're like, okay, I lose it.
That's right.
And then the whole level just kind of guides you along until you get every single
absolutely right. Now, and I remember, I never will forget that when that game, I'd first started playing that one way before the Nintendo Entertainment System came out. So I played it on the upright. There was a convenience store down from where my house was called Sunrise Minute Market. And me and all the neighborhood kids would go there and play and then talk about how far we got. So I never forget Sammy Drager's a friend of mine from high school. He says, of course, we were in middle school at the time. He goes, man, I got to the fire world. I was like, there's a fire world? And he'd gotten to level, 1-4. Yeah. Level 1-4. That was as far as any of us have ever gotten after playing for 2 months. Because you're shucking in quarters every time so I'd go there with $1.50 and I was like, okay. I can play for a good solid 30 minutes with $1.50. Now I'm sure I could beat the whole game with $1.50, or with at least another more practice,
Yeah.
But
for those who don't know, Super Mario Bros. And The Legend of Zelda were both created by Shigeru Miyamoto.
That's right.
Who is
the man.
Yeah, who's gotta be like gotta be one of the most genius game designers in history.
Oh yeah,
in terms of what he's done.
Oh yeah, he's the man. And Koji Kondo did the music for both of them.
Yeah, they're the Steven Spielberg and John Williams.
That's my boy. That's what I'm talking about. That's true.
Video games.
That is true. That is 100% true. They are the Steven Spielberg and John Williams of video games.
You go like the most memorable themes.
Oh yeah,
especially from like 8-bit and 16-bit, and you just see Kondo over and over again with his music.
Right. And and Zelda has got, being that you said that, Zelda has got those themes in it that, oh God, if I hear Epona's theme, I am literally taken back. Yeah, I am taken right back to just wanting that horse so bad and doing the things that I need to do to get that horse, and then having a good relationship with that horse. Like, man, that horse can do anything.
Oh, that was incredible for me when I first got Epona in the game, and what's his name?
Lon.
No, like the ranch owner who's
Lon.
Yeah, is that his name?
Lon's Ranch.
I'm talking about like the guy who like takes over from him like in the future.
Oh, I don't
know.
Who
like tries to lock you in.
Oh yeah, no, that's not Lon. I don't.
Yeah, he's like, I promised you a horse, but I didn't promise you could leave with the horse.
That's right.
So what you do is you like back up your opponent and you run. And you leap over, and then the theme kicks in, and you're like, "Whoa!"
Yeah, that's right. This is so awesome. That's right.
Yeah.
And and I get just fired up when I hear that opening, dun, 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 that little theme, you know. And the funny thing about that is, when JT had mentioned all the different themes that go along with it, the Super Mario Brothers is so incredibly well written. He wrote it as kind of like a little jazz bop piece or whatever. I think, but when I was teaching George Southern when I was teaching the guitar class at George Southern and the guitar students, one of my students loved video game themes and a lot of Nintendo themes. Mm-hmm. And so Miles, if you're out there, it's for you. He said, "Hey, can I do the Super Mario theme on guitar for classical guitar?" And you've heard me play it before.
I've heard you
it's
play it.
Really difficult, actually. It's there's a lot of syncopation. There's a lot of thumb work and cross fingering that's just tough.
You know who actually can play it on guitar?
Who?
Miyamoto.
Oh, I'm sure he can.
Yeah, he can. Oh, he actually knows music.
Oh, I didn't. Well, it makes sense. I mean, as good as he is with it, as using it with his work. Well, I wouldn't doubt it though. So the funny thing is I teach it to him, and I told him when he asked me if he could do it, he said, "Can I do this in a recital for my jury?" And I said, "Only one condition." And he said, "What's that?" And I said, "At the end of it, when you go bum 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 bum, you do that little, you go." At the very end, and when you're done, and so in the live performance, he does that, the 3 explosions, and man, the audience lost it. They just loved it, man. They were like, "Woo!" So this is a room full of college, music majors, really, because it's a general student recital, and he's got to do it, and they loved it, So, but it was a tough piece, and it was worthy of a college level performance. So
yeah, and I think that's the power of those iconic themes. Is that you do anything associated with the work there, and people just like love it.
Oh yeah,
because that's like so strongly tied to their nostalgia.
It is, and the GenX Vault is all about the nostalgia. It's all about that kind of thing, and it's funny that even though it skips a generation, you've landed in that same Zelda world that I have, and another world that we'll talk about a little later in the show, because now I know what you're sharing. So we can go with that. But it's kind of neat that it's carried over to you now. Okay, on your Zelda, you said you have beaten Breath of the Wild was the last one you beat because it was the last game that came out, right?
Yeah, but of the ones I've played the original Zelda 2, Link to the Past, Majora's Mask.
Which one did you say that I should play? Did you say I should play Zelda 2 or Link to the Past?
I said Link to the Past because that's kind of, it's almost a blueprint in the 2D kind of plane of what Ocarina would become.
Okay, so you mean the new A Link to the Past?
No, I mean like the original. The original.
Really?
Yeah, because it's actually like you go through the game, especially the early sections, and you're like, whoa, this is kind of beat for beat how you progress in A Link to the Past. I mean, it's not 1-to-1. The stories are different,
right?
But it lines up like scarily close.
Okay.
Like how?
Yeah, and I mean, it's part of me. When there's I know I can't start it now because when the new Zelda comes out, I'm literally saving up all my game mojo for when the new Zelda comes out, and then and hey, Nintendo, if you ever watch this show and you're listening, just please, whenever you come out with a new Breath of the Wild 2 or whatever you're going to call it, keep doing updates every 3 months and just shut up and take my money. I mean, just keep doing it, and I'll keep shucking you, $40 every time you want to update it. They're that good. That Breath of the Wild was that good. It was just that good. I mean, and I told JT when he started, the reason why I recommended Majora's Mask, I think it's because it was my favorite Zelda game at the time, but also it has enough side quests and enough things to keep you busy.
Yeah.
To me, it took all the things in Ocarina of Time and made it better. And what's funny is I told him this almost 10 years ago that was my favorite. And now the rest of the internet's coming around to say...
and suddenly Majora's Mask is the cool game to say, I always loved it.
And nobody did and they were like, it wasn't as good as Ocarina. I'm like, yeah, actually it was better. Yeah. And that's what I've said all along. So just want to throw that out there for all you naysayers out there. But it was. I mean, there were so many, and the things that you could do in Majora's Mask, like when for example, when you put on the Zora mask and you could go in the water and dive and jump out and do the tricks. That was just it. To me, they elevated. You could do everything that you could do in Ocarina, but elevated it to the next level. So you could tell that Nintendo was learning by their game development of what they could do, and I'm sure plenty of the things that were in Majora's were wanting to be added to Ocarina, they just couldn't. So. I mean, even when you hear the Zora Domain theme, I'm taken back to right when I graduated college, where I was, what I was doing, how I beat that game, and it's just a lot of good memories with that. So, okay, so what is, as of now, what is your favorite Zelda game?
As of the moment, I actually think Wind Waker.
Wind Waker is, yeah,
because I went through it and I was like, this, because something about like the combat, the art style, the music,
that art style is gorgeous.
Like it was Wind Waker is probably one of the few games that if you were to eliminate like the first three, or like if you were to be like, okay, this is after the N64, but I'm not going to tell you what console it was. Do you think people could eventually guess? Because
if you saw honestly, the way it looked,
because honestly, it is kind of a timeless art style.
No, it is.
Yeah.
So for those of you who've never played the Zelda series before, shame on you. But the Wind Waker, it looks exactly like you're playing a Disney movie. I mean, it's just that good.
Oh yeah, that's incredible.
Yeah, it looks like you're playing. Well, and when your dad and I were kids, Dragon's Lair or Dragon's Quest,
Dragon's Lair.
Dragon's Lair was the game that you could. There was a series of commands you could do. It was pre-drawn. It was obviously a Disney artist did it actually. And then when you as you did the rolling ball, which no one our age ever figured out how to play that game, and I don't even know that you can play it. I mean, I say that, but we never figured it out. Yeah. We just saw the guy at the arcade doing that, so we tried it. What does that do? And,
why is everything flashing?
Yeah, that's right. Oh, he melted again. Okay.
I do think it does speak to the little bit of sadism in us all. When because in your mind you kind of want to see how many ways you can kill Dirk. Like, just how many different ways he can wind up.
I don't know if they've ever came back with that game for like I'm sure they have come back with a console.
They actually made a sequel.
But did they ever make it with a console?
I don't think so, because... I'm sure they ported it to something over the years, but what's weird is they tried to do an NES port.
Oh, that wouldn't work.
No, pretty much they turned it into a side-scroller.
Oh, yeah, that's not the same thing.
Yeah, and the whole appeal of it was Don Bluth, who was like a legendary animator who worked on like Land Before Time,
right,
and like The Rescuers and things like that.
I told you guys he knew more than I did with this massive knowledge,
and just seeing this like seeing all that animation coming from an arcade game,
it was insane.
And having interactivity with it. Was like, that's what pretty much made it stand apart.
Yeah, it did. It was always in the back of the I think your dad and I were at Take 10 is where we would have played. Mm-hmm. And I always wondered if your dad and I ever met each other like prior to.
Just didn't know it.
Yeah, just didn't know it.
Because
I spent a whole lot of time in the same exact places he did. We just
never.
He was probably the kid that I took that GI Joe out of that last Ewok out of his hands in Playland before he got a chance to pick it up. In the old mall. Well, so when Wind Waker came out, it wasn't the first cel shaded game. Matter of fact, the N64 had another cel shaded game. No, It was the GameCube that had a 13, I believe it was, that was really good. It was actually a really good cell shading first person shooter, which looked great. But so it wasn't by any chance the first cell shaded game. It was just the first cell shaded Zelda game.
Yeah.
And so it looked amazing. Like I love Link. I thought it was the cutest little thing. The story. Oh man, when Grandma starts crying, it breaks your heart.
And then Link waves at her as he goes away on the ship.
It's tragic.
Because I think that might be the most emotional like departing scene.
No, that's pretty bad. Yeah, it is.
I mean, leaving like the Kokiri Forest and Ocarina. Like, I mean, that's kind of sad, but like you're kind of limited by the technology of like a bunch of polygons are saying bye to each other.
That's right.
But here you really see a young boy saying goodbye to the only family, like the only parental figure he has in his life.
Right, and it sets up that story, and that's one thing that they were able to do. So one thing that Nintendo made that shift, like we were talking about earlier, from just putting in a book and reading it, you actually got to experience it in real time, and you got to see emotional characters' faces. And that's one thing for you future game developers out there. And I play sniper games, I play Call of Duty, all that stuff, but I just don't have the love for those games because the story doesn't give me the love for the people. It's all, I mean, there's one thing about, having gratuitous violence, but, and Zelda, I mean, people say what they want. Zelda has a ton of violence.
Oh, yeah.
But the reality is they tell it with such a compassionate backstory. You want to achieve these good things and you want to help all the people that you can to overcome that evil, which is one thing that just most game developers, like when I played Skyrim, everybody's talking about, Skyrim, it's like Zelda on the next level. It's not. Is it pretty? Yeah, it's pretty. But I could care less about any of these NPCs and me trying to help them, nobody. But yet, that original Goron that wanted that bottle so that he could get through those rocks, back. I wanted to help that Goron out so bad. I'm going to find that bottle. I'm going to help you out, man. We're going to get you through those rocks.
Like Majora's Mask, where there's like a guy with a... Okay, I can't remember how this works, but like I think he's carrying a bag of bombs. Something. But also, he takes a bomb bag from an old woman in Majora's Mask, and you have to like stop him. And if you like shoot an arrow at it, he blows up.
Right.
Like, and then the old lady gives you the bomb mask. You're like, I just totally murdered a guy for an old lady in the game I don't know.
That's right.
Like, as a child.
Murdered a guy.
And now I have a weapon for murdering more.
That's right. Yeah, I mean, and you learn in of course you learn in Ocarina, don't mess with the chickens. You start thinking, I wonder if I can kill a chicken, and you try. No, you cannot.
That's how you should have beat Gandalf. Just throw one of
throwing
those
chickens at him.
Throw one of
Carry
those
all the chickens with you. Throw them to him. Yeah, that's right.
And he's like, "What's this thing?" And then he just like sees like they'll crash in through the windows.
So even going through and looking at all the Zelda games, we've talked about how the graphics got improved. Everything was a landmark for them. When Zelda games come out, people can say, "Oh, well, it took them 5 years or blah blah blah." Yeah, it took them 5-6 years to get to the level of quality that they expect.
Yeah.
Because whereas a Call of Duty game comes out every year, every other year, when it's a normal non-COVID year, they get to a certain level of quality, and they're good games, but they're not epic.
Yeah,
they don't like the second one. I think of World of War.
There's nothing that like this is one of the defining moments of the entire console era,
right,
of its time.
Right.
And that's what you usually get with Zelda.
That's right. Yeah, that's true. You get a benchmark
of where games were.
That's right.
Of just how good they could be.
That's right. And I think and we'll get on with this too. With Ocarina of Time, it set the stage for what the N64 was.
Mm-hmm.
With Legend of Zelda for what the NES was, and then when you get to moving forward, when you get to Wind Waker, like you said,
mm-hmm.
You got to remember that cell shading looked like you were playing on Disney graphics. Was from 2001 or something like that. I mean, that looked like on my normal big box TV, looked like I was watching, like Snow White or something like that. It was unbelievable.
And of course
in 3D.
Yeah, and of course, Nintendo fans being Nintendo fans, they absolutely complained about it when it came out. They're like, "What is this kiddie? We need mature Zelda."
Right. Well,
And then they released Twilight Princess, and of the two, which one would you say aged better visually?
Oh, no, hands down. The Wind Waker.
Which by
Wind
no
Waker.
means is Twilight Princess an ugly game.
Right.
It still looks really good, but Wind Waker just has one of the most timeless art styles of all time.
It's stunning. And so then if you take, so then they set that bar. So then they go to Twilight Princess, then Skyward Sword.
Yeah.
That is, which I've played and beaten both of those. I didn't particularly like either one of those games. I wasn't crazy about either one of those like I was Ocarina of Majora's or even, like I said, Wind Waker. But when they show the artwork style for Breath of the Wild,
Yeah.
what that did, and we've talked about this before, what that did was that scratched the itch for everyone.
Yeah.
You got an older, more mature Link.
But you also got vibrant popping colors.
Oh man, you got the cell shading that looked like, again, it looked like you were playing a gorgeous 3D Disney, with modern technology. And the cool thing was they kept their promise and they made that game still playable on the Wii U.
The Wii U.
That's right. And let me tell you, in the game industry, these are the most angry commenting bloggers out there. Every console manufacturer, with the exception of Nintendo, really has just continuously lied to their supporters, and continuously said, "I know we said that, but we can't." Blah blah blah, and they found reasons why they couldn't do something. Nintendo made sure that exact same game was playable on the Wii U. And while it was limited by what the Wii U's hardware could do, I'm positive that even moving forward with the Breath of the Wild 2, that it's going to even be better, even more stunning, even, in the graphics you see, the art style doesn't change. It's just, you can have some clarity and you can have some depth of things that you couldn't have had in the previous game. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like just details that you couldn't really have. So, not that it needs the details, it doesn't. It plays perfect.
Yeah, and that also plays into like the gameplay because it's with a game that large, you need to easily identify something from a distance.
Yep.
And that's what you can do. Like you see bright orange and you associate it with a shrine. Or you see you see something really tall, and you see that also that orangey glow, and you immediately associate that's a map tower.
One thing that that Miyamoto, when they were introducing Zelda, and one thing that Miyamoto said in that original Breath in the Wild, he said, "Any place you can see, you can go to."
Yeah.
And that was, we'd never experienced that as a Zelda game, and I literally wanted to travel everywhere I could in a Zelda game because there were things to do everywhere. You'd find a Korok, or you'd find a little guy that needed help. You'd find a guy that was waiting on his lover. You'd find somebody on the other side of the map waiting on, her lover, and they wouldn't.
And you can actually connect them.
You can connect the dots.
Yeah.
Whereas when I played Skyrim, I just didn't care. I was like, I don't. They just didn't drive for me. They didn't make me want to help them out.
Mm-hmm.
They just didn't. They never did. So out of all of them, even after Breath of the Wild, you said that your favorite is
Wind Waker.
Wind Waker. Okay,
but that's because I enjoy stories in games. I really like story-driven games, and don't get me wrong, Breath of the Wild has a story. It's an interesting story, and they put a lot of extra detail in that you can find. But I think what you need to drive the story along is a truly great antagonist. And Calamity Ganon, as intimidating as he is, he's kind of more like a force of nature.
He's also in the back. Okay, you're right. But you're also looking at things that have happened.
Yeah.
And you woke up from a past from 100 years ago in the echoes of what had happened.
Which is a brilliant move, by the way, to show that pretty much, everyone lost.
Everyone lost.
And Ganon's pretty much all but won.
Yeah.
And you can't do anything about that because you're starting after it.
Right.
All the stuff that's transpired has already happened. And pretty much you're trying to, I guess, undo the damage.
Right. Yeah.
That's kind of already been inflicted.
That's right. You don't. Yeah, that's right. You in this game, it's not a game where you you don't have the luxury to stop it from happening. It already happened.
Yeah.
And so what you're just trying to do is figure out how to not make it worse, really.
Yeah.
And so that is interesting. But well, okay, so I will full disclosure here. Breath of the Wild 2, in my opinion, is the greatest Zelda game ever. I do like Wind Waker, but whereas Wind Waker for me got a little monotonous because you were out on the ocean so much that you didn't have. There were so many times where unless you ran across the sunken treasure, there was just not a whole lot to do. The pirate ship thing was really cool. That was a really awesome thing. The photography thing was really cool. I love those little side quests. That was cool. But the Breath of the Wild 2, what was amazing to me about that was that it it gave you so many levels of the flying, and if you just look at what the mechanics of that game can do, people are still discovering what that game can actually do, how to actually use the physics. Because you actually had physics. There's actually a physics engine in this one, which older games have that too, like Half-Life. But this one, it can actually determine how you play the game and how you beat certain enemies.
Yeah, I think someone just recently found out that Link can roll on a barrel.
He can roll in a barrel?
Yeah, like if you jump on it on a knocked over barrel.
Really?
Like a cartoon, Link will actually
he can do really?
Yeah.
I mean, and that's what I'm saying. People are still discovering this. And when did that come out? When did Breath of the Wild 2 come out? When did Breath of the Wild come out?
Breath of the Wild came out, I think, 2016, 17.
So here it is 4 or 5 years later.
Yeah.
And people are still playing this game, still discovering new things, how to do things in this game. I saw one the other day that the guy had figured out how to do a certain. It wasn't. It may have been a speed run, but it's how to do a certain thing a certain way. And he just. It was an amazing. Just an amazing thing. Now, if I had my druthers, there's two things I'd like Nintendo to do in Breath of the Wild 2. First of all, three things. Yes, the obvious being allow us to pet the damn dog. Pet the damn dog. Two, allow us to go underwater.
Yeah.
We could swim on water. We could see it. We know the mechanics are there. We know things can go in water. Allow us to go underwater. And I think they will. I mean, they've shown us the aerial stuff. Mm-hmm. I don't think that, I think that they would be, leaving money on the table if they didn't allow you to go in the water too. And the third thing is, I think that if they continue to do the DLC stuff, the pay for DLC, it would be a way that you didn't take away that epic story. Like one of the things I wanted to see, kind of like we rebuilt Terrytown in the last game, I wanted to see us rebuild Hyrule up over a period of time and have these quests to rebuild Hyrule. So if this one is truly the sequel and it's the final one of this saga of Link, of this particular version of Link, then let it be a building up game. I think that would be cool. Let it be keep
to see at the end kind of the fruits of your labor.
Oh yeah.
As you've built Hyrule back.
That's right. To go back and to say, okay, I'm gonna keep playing this, and I'm gonna keep getting. Now I'm gonna rebuild the castle at Hyrule. Now I'm gonna rebuild the Temple of Time. I'm gonna read it, and all these quests built around that. That would just be epic, man. Yeah. And then to go back and see all of the things that you helped restore. And with Zelda, we say continuity. They've only recently started. I would say in the past 10 years, started really talking about the continuity, because I think Miyamoto said that it was never meant for Link to be the same person.
Yeah, that it was like a different hero each time.
But you weren't clear of that as a kid,
Yeah, all you knew was that there was a boy in green who was named Link, who was in every game, and that was it.
So we thought it was the same guy. I mean, I didn't, and what's not to tell me, And,
I mean, I guess you'd be confused where, you'd be like, okay, how can this be the same guy? Because how's he eternally?
Well, that's right.
Around the age of 10 to 12, somehow.
That's right.
But that's the only clue that was obvious.
That the time period would change.
Yeah,
but it's not like, I mean, if you had to say that this was based in any time period, you're talking about around medieval of the Earth equivalent. So you're talking about the 1200s, 1300s, because you have barrels and carts and things like that, but you don't really get, there's no real time reference.
Yeah, because nothing really ages in the
Zelda. In the newest one, which is, I think, 10,000 years.
Oh, yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah,
in the future.
But in the newest one, you've got the Sheikah Slate and all this kind of stuff. But Twilight Princess, everything kind of had that digital look to it as it was coming out of the sky. The aliens or whatever they were.
The Twilight.
Yeah, the Twilight. Were they called the Twilight?
Yeah, the Twilight, or the Twilight.
Twilight, that's right.
Something like that, like the other realm that was merging into Hyrule.
And that's where you're really good at that, better than me. I can't remember those little things after a while. I don't know how you remember all that stuff.
I remember it because I didn't know the species name, because when I first saw like people talking about it, I didn't know Midna was the same species as them.
Is she really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, like, you know Zant, the bad guy?
Yeah. I mean, I only remember because I got Zant's helmet in Breath of the Wild, but I forgot all about it.
Yeah, but no, apparently Zant and Midna are the same species, are the same race.
I didn't know that.
But yeah, and I remember that because I was kind of like, when I first saw Zant, like, he creeped me out so much.
Oh, dude.
Like,
when those little guys fall out, when you hear the oh my god, that scared the absolute crap out of me every time I heard that, because I knew I'm about to die.
Yeah.
You know, especially in the early parts of the game. The latter parts, I'm like, all right, I'm ready to take you on now. But the early parts scared the crap out of me.
Well, also, like, you hear Zant's theme come in. I forget. I don't know. I'm trying to, because you can't really hum it because it sounds so. I don't know. It's kind of
esoteric. It's kind of out there.
Yeah, it's kind of out there, but like it sounds like most villains. You have like an intimidating theme, like Vader's.
Yeah.
You know that sounds that's intimidation.
Yeah.
Zant's theme is more like, it sounds like a horror movie or something. Like, you just get the impression this guy is not
right.
all there.
Yeah,
like he's this is a disturbing guy you're about to fight.
Yeah, and I gotta be honest with you, I don't remember. That game, even though that one and Skyward Sword are two that they're not as memorable to me. Only because I don't know if I think with those Zeldas, I'll be honest with you, I think with those Zeldas, I remember specifically with Twilight Princess, I was ready to beat it and be done with the game. Not that it was a bad Zelda game. It was just I just wasn't in love with it. I absolutely was in love with Breath of the Wild, and I could see how you could be absolutely love, the Wind Waker. They're just there's so many things in there that are epic, they're beautifully crafted, that it allows you to do that. And I just kept wanting to go back and go back and go back to Hyrule and Breath of the Wild. But once I got out of Twilight Princess, and once I got out of Skyward Sword, I didn't want to go back. And that's why I told you I didn't have any interest in downloading Skyward Sword HD.
Yeah,
because
I've
already beaten it. It's a game that I don't really want to go back to.
Yeah.
And I think Nintendo, the things that I've read about it, people have said, well, what some of the mechanics you see in the new Breath of the Wild are some of the similars to Skyward Sword, with the falling out of the sky and all that, and the Skyloft issues. Well, and it might very well be that Nintendo is trying to come back to a point and say, hey, don't forget that these games are actually a little more connected.
Oh yeah, I'm sure that wasn't a coincidence that they showed up. The first shot of gameplay is Link falling from the sky. That can't be a coincidence.
Yeah, that's right. Well, and I have seen that big, when you go into the Forgotten Temple in Breath of the Wild 2, that massive shrine, that massive, shrine. And what was it, a shrine? That massive statue at the end of it.
Yeah.
This, not the shrine, but I guess it is a shrine. That massive one at the very end of it. That same artwork and style is in the Skyward Sword.
Oh yeah.
So that they're definitely making a connection there. It's just we don't know how they are going to connect the two. Now, do you go to any YouTube channels with Zelda, like Zeltic or?
You mentioned them to me. I have checked them out before, just because I like hearing people's ideas on what could happen, and I like hearing discussion on that, because that's interesting to me.
Yeah, it's
like
kind of like
I like story. Like I said, I like story in games. I like lore. Like, even if it's not necessarily like everyone would be like, this is boring or something. Talking about where a guy comes from or how he makes a living.
Right.
But like, to me, that's kind of cool to see, like, because it just shows the amount of thought they put into the world.
Right. Well, that's what I was going to say. When you these guys, the Nintendo, like when you watch Zeltic, Nintendo Black Crisis, or I think the Mass Nintendo Bandit, those three guys, I think I've seen those guys. Man, these guys they know the lore like you wouldn't believe of Zelda. And in particular, the one that I favor kind of the most is Zeltic. I've watched more of his videos than anybody. Man, they will make a connection from one guy to another game to another game to another game. And they're right. I mean, Nintendo, when they develop these games, they really do go through their entire catalog and how is this related, and how can we do that? When I didn't know that Keaton mask that was really popular in
Pikachu.
yeah, I had no idea when I was playing that game.
But now you look back on it now and you're like, holy crap! How did
that
I
was
not
Pikachu.
see that?
And when that guy said, "Oh, these are really popular," Nintendo was making a joke about their own franchise.
Yeah, it's like when you go back and watch Who Framed Roger Rabbit, and now you get all the
Right.
right.
Yeah, and there's even more that with movies like that are just crafted well. So the Nintendo series is crafted like a good movie or a good book or a good story. There's foreshadowing. There's history that goes on there, and then there's just a good setup to make you care about the characters that you're associating with, and which, as they say, the NPCs, the non-playable characters.
Yeah.
You really want to help them out. So so from JT and I, our love letter to Nintendo, thank you, Miyamoto. Yeah, thank you guys, and Koji Kondo as well for contributing, and all the other artists in Japan and Nintendo and everyone that's ever worked on a Zelda game. Thank you so much. Those are awesome.
I think Eiji Aonuma in particular he's the mainline producer of the series.
No.
Yeah, I think nowadays he's even more involved than Miyamoto.
I think so. I think you're right.
He's kind of been on there since Majora's Mask.
Yeah, and I see his name just as much pop up.
I think Miyamoto, Miyamoto is kind of the Spielberg, but I think Aonuma is kind of like the Feige.
Okay,
he's kind of like he's
keeping it together. Yeah,
the gatekeeper.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense actually. So,
but before we wrap up on those guys, one thing that I forgot to tell Chris about Kondo. You know that for a while in the development, the Zelda theme was actually not the Zelda theme.
I didn't know that.
No, it was supposed to use a classical piece called Bolero.
Oh yeah, I did know that. I did because it was a fire. Bum 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 da 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 dum which has a snare intro for 30 minutes. It's crazy.
Yeah, which I mean would fit.
Yeah,
in the context, but apparently they found out that the song was still copyrighted, so they couldn't or trademark. They couldn't use it.
Yeah,
so Kondo created the theme for Zelda in a day.
Oh man,
can you imagine just doing that casually?
Yeah,
just, creating one of the most iconic video.
Well, it's funny that it ties up some stuff. When you were talking about how Kondo is the John Williams to Miyamoto's Spielberg.
Yeah.
When Spielberg gave John Williams the score for Schindler's List, he had read the score and he said or not the score when he'd given him the script. He said he just got it and he was weeping. He was just and so he goes back to Spielberg,
which is that's a hard movie to watch.
And I need to go back and watch it. Actually, it's one of those that you don't watch on an easy Friday. You just got to have mentally prepare for it.
You got to buckle down so you're about to see some stuff.
Yeah, and so but he goes back to Spielberg with the script. He said, look, you need a better composer than me to write this. And Spielberg says, I know, but they're all dead. and that was really a compliment to John Williams and the fact that they found out he couldn't use Bolero and he wrote that in a day. Sometimes that pressure is the creativity that you need to push yourself over the edge and get you to do something like that. So yeah.
And what's weird is Kondo's like he's one of the few names early on in video game music that was kind of recognizable of his work. Because he really kind of understood how to make because you kind of go back with a lot of games from that era, and the soundtracks in them aren't if they're licensed, it's usually just a digitized version of the theme song from the movie or the show. But a lot of times, what you hear is just this weird combination of sounds and noises.
Okay, so I'm going to jump in on that. Okay, so Super Mario Brothers, when you take that. He's limited to 8 bits.
Yeah.
There's synth all that stuff is not even as good sounding as the sound I just made.
Yeah.
So he's limited to percussion sounds. He's limited to the kind of instrument sounds he can make. And what that does, what's interesting to me about that is when you limit how many notes, and I can't remember if it was 2 or 3 notes that could be played at the same time. But it wasn't a lot. I'm going to look that up. I'm going to scroll that across the screen here. How many notes could be played at the same time in the original NES? It wasn't like they do full orchestral scores like we do now. No. So, but when you limit to that, what he did was his note displacement. that the rhythm that throws that off there, he makes the rhythm work as the groove to basically suggest this is what the chord is or would be, and it's freaking perfect. It's like, oh my god! And now even when you hear, like when I play it on guitar and I'm teaching on guitar, it's so incredibly hard because of that, because you wouldn't normally write something like that, but he had to write it like that because of the hardware limitations. So he's not only a genius in the sense of he's a great composer with great themes, he made something work with, he said, somebody came to him and said, hey, I need you to write for this instrument, but you can't use X, Y, and Z, and throw out L through P. And he's like, what the heck?
He made it work.
And he made it work.
And not only did he make it work, he made it excellent.
He made it excellent. He made it better than it had to be.
Yeah.
And because of that, we thank you. That's right.
Thank you, Mr. Right. And on the off chance you're seeing this on your Saturday night.
That's right. On the off chance, but that's okay. We enjoy talking about it.
Yeah.
Okay, so what are your any closing thoughts other than that with Legend of Zelda?
I would say what Zelda is like you said, it spans generations of people who've experienced it. It's one of the truly great video game franchises. It's up there with Mario, up there with Donkey Kong, up there with Sonic. It's just, and go and see, just type in any greatest games list, like top 100, top 50, and you will get an eyeful of Zelda.
You will
across. You'll just see it everywhere, and that's well earned, because, like we said before, what you get with Zelda is you get an impression of just how good games could be on the hardware of their release.
You do. You get an idea of how good a video game can be and what it feels like, what it's like when everybody working on that game is pouring love into it. You don't just get the next Call of Duties with the zombies map, or you don't get a rehashed version of Nuketown or another Assassin's Creed, which you do the exact same things over and over. What you get is an expansive world that you can tell that everybody that's working on that has looked at every inch of that world and they put time into it,
Yeah, and I think no other analogy serves up than this one, when Miyamoto's inspiration for the game, the original game, which he was the director of, he based the game off of when he was a boy and he had moved into a new home, which he said he would spend his days exploring the forest around it. And one day he found a cave that had just naturally formed. And it was like a decently sized cave. He said he was nervous, to go in it, but eventually he got a lantern one day and ventured into it.
Really?
So he based the first Zelda game, and by extension the series, on that sense of adventure.
That's cool. Yeah. I didn't know that. I had no idea.
And you really feel that kind of primal sense to explore in the games, and to, especially the first one, all the way up to Breath of the Wild.
All the way, yeah. You really want to explore.
Yeah. And he just kind of based it on that sense to
explore.
Yeah.
That's really cool. I didn't know that. I had no idea.
That's what separates him from a lot of developers. And don't get me wrong, there are great developers out there who pour their heart and soul into games the same way that film directors do.
Right.
Like kind of how Spielberg and Tarantino and Kubrick would just pour themselves into things like that. You kind of get that sense with Miyamoto.
Right.
He incorporates like stuff he's seen before, like cartoons and books and things he's read, and his own personal experiences, and he just kind of shapes these kind of masterpieces around them.
And I think, to be clear, when I say I didn't like that Zelda game, that meant it was a 9.5.
Yeah.
that didn't mean
it didn't quite get a 10.
Yeah, it didn't quite get a 10.
Yeah, don't get us wrong. The worst Zelda games, at least
better than
at least the ones on Nintendo, the Philips CDI ones.
Oh yeah, we won't
avoid those.
Yeah, don't. That's not even a real Zelda game.
Those aren't. Yeah, but even the worst Zelda games are still better than 90% of the libraries. The same console.
And I think that if I had to rate mine that I played, I would say that the original Zelda, 10 out of 10, Ocarina of Time, 10 out of 10, Majora's Mask, 10 out of 10. And the other two between that, I would say, and I know I would say that Wind Waker, I would put that one on 9.8 out of 10. But the other two, I would say 9.2 or 3 out of 10.
Yeah.
And then when I got to, Breath of the Wild, for me at least, it's 10 out of. If I could give that game an 11 out of 10, I would. It's just that, in my opinion, it's the greatest video game I've ever played, ever. And you got to remember, I put a lot of quarters into Super Mario Brothers, man. So it's like I've done that. But it is such, everything with those games is such a memory, and they know that and they appreciate that. They take that into that development. The fact that a Gen X was here talking to a Gen Z about Nintendo this many years later, and Zelda in particular is a testament to how good those games are. They're fantastic.
Yeah, the same way, to tie us back to the previous episode, same way Star Wars can bridge generations.
Yep.
So can Zelda.
Oh yeah, it absolutely can.
Yeah.
And I think that I think the video game, populace, they definitely think about my demographic in the games. They certainly think about your demographic in the games and younger. But it probably only goes about 5 to. I know that my brother plays. He's 10 years older than me, but not a lot of people in his generation do. But he was just as interested in Zelda as I was, because that sense of adventure. That what does this mean? And solving this out. My brother had gotten so, because you couldn't download stuff back then, you couldn't look up stuff. He had bought graph paper and traced it out to beat the original Zelda.
Yeah.
And I still beat it before him.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And one more moment of me kissing the ground Miyamoto walks upon. They said, like, when they kind of tested Zelda, that the feedback they got were people complaining it was too complicated.
Oh yeah, it was hard.
And that it was like, they're like, no one's going to figure this out. And Miyamoto said, how about we don't start them off with a weapon? How about we make them go into a cave? And they were like, what? But what that did was that fostered a community around the game. And that made people remember it and talk about it. And it made it stand out.
Yeah.
It really did feel like an adventure.
It did. It absolutely did feel it. It did. And it still does. So,
yeah.
Way to go, Miyamoto. All right, that wraps up our Legend of Zelda, our love letter to Legend of Zelda. JT and I can spend a whole lot of time talking about that. And so now it's time for Show and Tell.
It's time for Show and Tell, boys and girls.
You didn't see that, did you?
No.
Did you see that? Okay. All right. Make sure that JT didn't see my secret show and tell. All right, JT, I'm going to let you go first today for show and tell.
Yeah, I'm making sure his pants are still on. Just making sure,
we're not showing everything on this. Oh, my God. You can definitely tell he's been my godson. All right, what are you going to show us today, JT?
All right. Well, a few weeks ago, I went to Galactic and I picked up this really cool Cobra Commander statue.
That is sweet.
And I'm particular about when I buy stuff like this because...
You don't buy a whole lot of collectible stuff like your dad.
No, because Dad like is much more observant with stuff. Like he thinks about like space and where he can display,
right,
and how well it's going to age and stuff like that. The materials. I just see something and like, ooh, pretty, and then I kind of like just pick it up. So, but with this, I knew I had room for this. But what I kind of like about it is it's nice. It's a quality product, but I like that it keeps the aesthetic of the cartoon.
Oh, it does.
It kind of makes it like in a 3D kind of dimensions. Because like I'm of the opinion that realism isn't always definitively the best way to portray something. And I actually prefer things like this that kind of bring more to life the cartoon aspects of it than if it were to interpret it into like I'd rather have something like this than if they made a Cobra Commander Hot Toys,
right?
Which don't get me wrong, would still be awesome, but I kind of appreciate this design more.
Yeah, Hot Toys does even if you like, for example, they did this with the Bad Batch, the new Hot Toys Bad Batch. Mm-hmm. They look like real people instead of cartoons.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, there's something cool about that.
There is something cool about that too. Yeah, there's something cool about that. And so, but your style, you're saying you like the aesthetic of the cartoon and the fact that they did bring the cartoon aesthetic, if it were real, but a real cartoon aesthetic.
Yeah, and because Dad texted me, he showed me like a picture of like a masterpiece figure from Transformers that was have you seen like the original movie like from the 80s?
Oh yeah, Transformers the movie.
Yeah, they showed like Starscream's coronation thing.
Oh yeah, they blasted him,
and it looked like he jumped right off the cartoon. He showed me a picture of it, and in the back of my mind, I was going, "Oh shit!"
Yeah.
Because now I really want that.
Now
Because
you're
it
now
looks
you
awesome.
that collecting bug. Yeah. Okay, so speaking of Starscream, the guy that did the voice of Cobra Commander also did the voice of Starscream, right?
Chris Latta.
Starscream. Who was it?
Chris Latta.
Okay.
Yeah.
His name is Chris Latta?
Mhm.
I know a guy named Chris Latta.
Oh, really?
Yeah, not the same guy.
Yeah, well,
Not the
one
same
of
guy.
them's dead, so...
Okay. Oh, is he? Okay, not the one I know, for the record.
Unless they'd be like, or like, they'd be like, hey, is Chris Latta here? And they'd be like, Chris Latta's been dead for the past 20 years.
No,
like,
different guy.
what?
Different guy. So this is interesting. I never noticed this in the cartoon, and I never noticed this in the original figure either. This belt buckle insignia right there, little triangle, that's real similar to the Adventure Team logo with the AT that G.I. Joe used to, was basically born out of. Or excuse me, G.I. Joe became Adventure Team in the 70s when the G.I. Joe kind of thing was originally dying down and became the Adventure Team. They wanted to introduce new characters to it and all that in the toy world, that is, way before the cartoon. So, and of course, he's got his the Cobra emblem on his jacket, and of course, he's standing on it. And this one does the white right here on the top of the helmet. It does the white. They make it both ways. They make that helmet,
and they made the hood.
And what?
What were you saying?
Well, no, I was going to say they make the helmet with the white, and they make it with just the blue.
With just the blue.
Yeah, with just the blue. And of course, he's got his scepter as the Cobra, which is cool.
Yeah, and I know Chris will disagree with me on this, but to me, Cobra Commander will be the only and the best leader of Cobra.
Oh,
Sorry
yeah.
to any Serpentor.
He knows I love Serpentor. Okay.
Yeah.
My love for Serpentor, though, is really more, it goes deeper in the collecting world than it does the cartoon, because don't get me wrong, I like Cobra Commander, but and if I were to dress as any of the G.I. Joe characters for Halloween, it would be a Cobra Commander.
Yeah.
So it's kind of funny because, and Serpentor's outfit is ridiculous.
Yeah.
His
origin's ridiculous.
His origin is well butted, but genetically, it's, hey man, they're cloning stuff.
Yeah.
But his origin is ridiculous. His outfit's ridiculous. His personality is off. It's unhinged.
Mm-hmm.
But I love him because of how hard it took me to get, how hard I traveled and tried to get that toy. When I finally got it,
it was your badge of honor.
It was a badge of honor, and I love that figure and still love it to this day. And he's the only other figure other than Wild Weasel that I would commission a custom for, like a custom 3/4. So I do love Serpentor. But the original leader of Cobra is right here, and this was this was even before. Okay. But that being said, my first mail order figure was a Cobra Commander. It was the hooded version.
Yeah.
That had the little gun on the back, and I remember it came in a little plastic sealed bag, not a bucket card, not a blister card, but a black packing seal bag. And man, it took forever for that to come in. I wanted that figure so bad. So I loved Cobra Commander. He was my very first, G.I. Joe that I sent away for, and I could not wait for that thing to come in. So there's a very, very special place in my heart for Cobra Commander. So that's cool. And his arms, did you have to attach it, or?
No, it was just one piece.
Okay, I didn't want to move it and make it. Okay, because I see the scene there.
They should make like several of those in a series. Like you've got Snake Eyes, Storm Shadow, Destro.
Okay, yeah.
They might actually have a Serpentor statue like this.
They do. I did see that there's I did see it. Which is funny. I don't really collect a lot of statues. I've only got a few things in the Star Wars world. Nothing really in the statue world of the G.I. Joe. So it's just not one of those things that I've collected. Mm-hmm. But that's really cool, man. Yeah. That's awesome. Well,
now it's your turn.
My turn for my show and tell. I'm actually going to do I'm going to keep it in the theme today. All right. This one I'm going to dedicate to my cousin Troy out there. Troy always envied that I had the Fang, and he never did. Now this is the reissue Fang, the newest reissue Fang. They've done. I think this is the second reissue of the Fang helicopter. And what's interesting about this is that they made it just a little wider. They made this actually more realistic instead of just a roll bar or whatever. But this is a total resculpt. This is nothing is original on this Fang. Not the driver, nothing. They added more detail, to the cockpit. They added a handlebar controller instead of just a pole like they had in the back of the day. But the exact same layout and playability is the same. You've got the tail rudder. You've got the obviously the main prop. You've got the swivel laser gun that would fire.
Yeah.
You've got the missiles on the side, and then you've got the big bomb on the bottom.
Yeah, which don't get me wrong, if this was a real vehicle, I would not feel comfortable with the blades being that close to my head.
It's funny you should say that. They are real vehicles.
Oh, they are?
They are real vehicles. So when I played the game
with no
canopy whatsoever.
What?
No canopy whatsoever. They are real vehicles, and they're personal helicopters. And so when I was a kid, I thought, "Oh, how crazy is this? This is nowhere even remotely close to who would fly that. That's what I thought as a kid. Because the moment you started doing this, and
your head's going.
Oh man, it's nothing but a moving lawnmower above your head. And so, but then I played I think Far Cry 3, and then Far Cry 4. And as I'm getting around the island in Far Cry 4, I'm like, oh man, they have personal helicopters everywhere. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, every other vehicle in this game is a real vehicle. Do they really make these things? And I Googled it. They do really make the things. I'm going to show some pictures of them up now as we're talking to you. But yeah, they make these things. So this isn't at all science fiction or cartoon or toy fiction. They are real things that can be used. I don't know if they've ever. I'm sure they've been used in military exercises.
Oh, it's inevitable. They would have had to be at some point
for recon or something.
Yeah,
but obviously they don't necessarily strap in missiles and bombs and laser cannons or rockets on the back.
Yeah,
that was the big difference. The rocket on the back of this thing. But yeah, but the interesting thing about the Fang, what's cool about the Fang when you're a kid, and you got to remember, my cousin Troy had every G.I. Joe thing you could possibly want. The Terror Drome. The only thing he didn't really have that was really a big one was the flag. He didn't have the USS Flag.
Well, that's pretty much depending on your parents being rich.
Oh well, that's true.
Because of the price of that thing.
That's true. It was
insane.
It was out there. It was $100 and something when it came out back in the 80s.
In 1980s money.
Oh yeah,
which no parent would be like, okay, we're going to have to take 2 birthdays and 3 Christmases off the table if you're going to get this.
No soup for you.
Yeah.
That's right. That's exactly, it'd be a negotiating chip for the parent. Well, and so, but the cool thing about the Fang when it came out, it was, I think in the single digits. I think it was like $9 or maybe $8 or $9 when it came out, and I'll look that up for you. But what was cool about it was the playability. It was a you could hold it in your hand, so you're playing around. You're flying through tight canyons and whatever. Mm-hmm. You're doing what you need to do to get this guy around. And it was a small enough vehicle that you could do that sort of thing with. You didn't have to worry about, it wasn't such a big plane that it was bulky for a 10-year-old to carry around. This was portable. And I think he was always jealous of that, because I would always, get in the Fang and fly off, and you could do it. Now, you can tell the sizes are real similar, but the new G.I. Joes are taller. Mm-hmm. So you see his legs don't go all the way in like they necessarily should. It's okay. I mean, that's kind of part of it. But in those single cockpit helicopters that I'm talking about, they're not massive anyway. They're essentially about this size. Mm-hmm. Basically, what you're looking at is a go-kart frame with a helicopter engine, and a helicopter blade attached to it. And I'm sure,
which on paper sounds like a terrible idea, but in practice, it's probably much more.
Yeah, I guess that there's personal helicopter enthusiasts out there, as there are anything else.
Probably typing a bunch of middle finger emojis right now, be like, screw you.
That's right. They're sending those
things
down.
Are awesome.
That's right. Those down likes, Yeah. But it's funny. But this was my thing as a kid, and Troy always liked it, and so I picked him up one actually a couple weeks ago and sent it out to him, since he never had it as a kid. I bought it's in the $20-something range now, and I bought 2. And the reason why I waited for this is because when they came out with a reissue, I bought him one of those and sent him one, but I think in a movie lost it, and then he told me that he had lost it. So when I went looking on eBay again for it, or just to find it, they were already something like $150-something.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh no, it ain't worth that. Not worth that. Not this little guy. But when it got to 20-something, I was like, okay, man, I'm gonna go ahead and buy a little Fang for Troy, and I finally got one for myself, just to always have as a memory of playing with something as a kid that I love. So that was my. We're both on the G.I. Joe point today, so that is my show and tell.
Well, that was good.
Cool. All right. You know what time it is, JT?
I believe, if I'm keeping up with everything right, it is time
for the box of mystery.
It's time for the box full mystery.
That's right. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I say that a lot, don't I?
Yeah, just like we gotta insert the Kool-Aid man.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
As General Mills trademark lawyers come knock me down. I don't even know if it's General Mills, but anyway. All right, it is. It is time for a box mystery. I've got something I think you'll like today.
Oh really?
Mm-hmm. In keeping with your show theme, I have decided in the box of mystery to put something in there that I think is really awesome. Now, you ready to see what it is?
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to open this. All right. Oh, yeah. You down there? Oh, he fell off. All right. You see that?
Yeah.
I'm gonna move some stuff around here.
Now is that Firefly?
That is Firefly. Good eye, my man.
Yeah.
All right, so this is interesting. His backpack there. This figure here is from the new classified series, G.I. Joe, which your dad and I were talking about this in the last episode. I told him, I said, I'm not planning to get a whole lot of classified stuff, and I'm not. There comes an issue of space. There comes an issue with, money. How much money you spend on these things? What are they actually worth? And then there just comes an issue with, if I am going to put it up, not only is a space thing, but how am I going to set up to where it's not just sticking in a corner somewhere? So, you want to appreciate it for what it is. You don't just want to stick it in the corner. So Firefly, what's cool about Firefly is they stayed true to the original toy and the color and the camouflage, right? Mm-hmm. But one thing they did to the movie, which I thought was interesting, they kind of did a small tie-in to the movie, which they would not have been able to do back in the day. And that is this. What he comes with is a little Firefly drone. See that?
Oh yeah.
Isn't that cool?
No.
And I was wondering, when I got this thing out, and actually I think something just fell off, and I'll grab that in there. Yes, it did. When I took this out of the box, I'm trying to figure out, okay, how is this supposed to go in his backpack? I had to look at pictures and all that. But you see, they even had dynamite that they put in here to let it store in his back. Because do you remember what? This is a GenX asking a Gen Zer. Do you remember what Firefly's designation is? What does he do?
Isn't he demolitions expert?
Pretty much, he's a saboteur. It's his job to blow stuff up. That's right. But the cool thing, what I liked about Firefly, to me, he was one of the best original figures because he kind of looked like a ninja, right, with that face mask on. But and I never had Storm Shadow as a kid, and Storm Shadow's never been one of my favorite G.I. Joes. It just wasn't. But he was my answer to Storm Shadow. Oh yeah, he has the ninja features on the face. He kind of has that look. But he's also got the camouflage. He had the grenades or the explosives. He had come with a weapon. He had the sweet combat boots and all that. And I thought that this kind of thing was an interesting homage to the movie. Even though I didn't like the movie, I thought that was a cool way for him to get the name Firefly.
Was how he actually used Firefly.
How he used the Firefly drones to
blow up.
Yeah, to blow stuff up, and I thought that was kind of a cool little thing.
Yeah.
So his backpack, and for those of you who don't know, Firefly originally came with this. Your dad and I talked about this last episode. All the original G.I. Joe came with these backpacks, and that was part of the accessory, the collectible that made them awesome. Mm-hmm. And in the original G.I. Joes, you would always, if you like one character's backpack, but you didn't like the rest of the figure, you might want to use that with another figure or whatever. Mm-hmm. But Firefly's backpack, in the original episode, it came with a detachable, you could take a part out of it on the lower half, and it came with a phone. Mm-hmm. And you got to remember this is like 85, 86, where cell phones were not,
what is this thing?
They weren't commonplace. Yeah. And this one, what it does, look at that. It comes with kind of a cool little, I don't have any idea what that does. I don't know what this is supposed to be.
Yeah.
If it's supposed to be some sort of mounting thing for that.
Maybe that's his controller for the drone.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that's what that is. I think that's his handheld controller for the drone. I think you're absolutely right. I think that's what that's supposed to be. But in the original, like I said, it was the phone. So this, yeah, I think you're right. I think that's his controller. I think that's his handheld controller for the drone. Yep, yeah. You're right. That's like a drone pad, like it's almost like an iPad. And there's his
and he's like
Yep.
controls where it goes.
like his D-pad or something like that. Yep, I think you're absolutely right. So it's really cool because they went back and they answered. His old one was a phone, but in today's times,
That's
everybody's
not really-
got it.
Yeah.
everybody's got it. So he's like, okay, I've got a drone. I've got a remote control to control my drones. That's what I've got.
Mhm.
Yeah, so that's cool. So all right, let's see. Let's bring him back out. Let's stand it up next to that. Now mine did come. As you can tell, he has a demolition, like a bomb vest on, which a demolition expert would, because in case something went off around him, he's went all the protection again. Mine came with a little bit of a wonky leg there. It was just a little bit, it drops in when you do that, but no big deal because when you set him up, it holds him up just fine, so that's cool. All right, let's put them beside each other, JT. Let's bring your model up over here.
All right.
So you can see there's a size difference.
Oh yeah.
Is that this guy's 6 inches? I'd say this is about 9, maybe.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Something like that. Yeah. That's pretty cool.
9 or 8 or something.
And he didn't. Did the staff, was that in his hand when it came in?
No, you had to put it.
He had to put it in his hand.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So it does count as an accessory. Came an accessory. Firefly comes. Oh, and by the way, his goggles do come off. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah, I thought they looked like they did.
They do. And that was actually a lot easier. I was telling your dad last week, said, do not take the Viper's goggles off. I was like, because I can't get him back on the same way. This one was actually easy. But, man, the Viper is like, kind of like Firefly. And I debated whether or not I'd keep, because the original didn't come with goggles.
Yeah.
I debated whether or not I would keep his goggles on. And you know what's kind of funny?
Mm-hmm.
When I took them off, I actually do like the way he looked better with them on. So I thought it's kind of cool. Like he's ready for some
kind of like thermal imaging.
Yeah, some infrared or thermal vision or something like that. And I thought it was kind of a cool little thing. And of course, unlike the Viper, this guy actually the Viper does, and so does he comes with a long peg.
Mm-hmm.
That Black Series Boba Fett that I got. Oh my God, it was like the peg's like this long. It's like don't sneeze or it'll fall from the back. It was that bad. So let's see. So this is our collection today. Got all G.I. Joe.
Yeah, keeping it on theme.
I think that this will go down in history. This will be the only time that ever happens.
That it's all in unison.
It's all G.I. Joe. And you got kind of the 3 scales here. You've got the only thing I'm not having is my sideshow up there.
Like,
Viper.
It was Viper.
Yeah, the 12-inch. But the original 3 3/4 line, which is now a little bit bigger. The classified line, which is obviously 6 or 7 inches. I think that's 7 inches, I think. And then, of course, your statuette. But no, I think it's the only time we're going to have all G.I. Joe because I don't think your dad's going to ever bring anything.
Oh, yeah.
Well, and he did bring Snake Eyes, I think.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, he did bring Snake Eyes.
Yeah, he might have a few other things up.
He might sneak it up. He might.
Be
Rob,
sneaky.
you'll sneak it in there, Rob.
Yeah.
Sneaky.
But what you're talking about with scale, have you seen those Titan class Transformers they've started producing recently?
What is it?
Like, like Metroplex and like
Yes.
Trypticon,
Yes.
the city Transformers?
Yeah.
They have built figures of them that are 2 feet tall.
Yeah, and you know what? One of the shows we're going to get into, your dad, I haven't really talked to him about this yet, but one of the shows I'm going to get into, believe it or not, there is an entire, I haven't even shared this with your dad yet, there's an entire bootleg toy market out there.
Mm-hmm.
That what they make
I believe it.
are copies, exact copies of like Optimus Prime, of Starscream, of Megatron, the original Megatron. So if you wanted an original Megatron in that, in the Walther P-38 style that he came in,
I remember you
can buy it.
There was some like headline of like a factory in China was raided that was producing those bootleg.
Oh, I wouldn't doubt it. I mean, as a matter of fact, I can believe that with 100% certainty because while it's illegal, there's an entire industry out there that literally makes, and they don't say Optimus Prime or they don't say Starscream or anything like that. They just say like Jetman,
yeah,
and Cannon Man,
Super Gun,
Super Gun Trans Guy,
American Robot for Optimus Prime,
American Robot, American Trucker Robot,
yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, but the reason why I mentioned that was because they've realized that the Gen Xers are the ones that want this stuff again, and your generation is not so much into collecting. I'm sure there are people out there your age. Do you know anybody your age that does collect?
I know a few of my friends that can like recognize like a quality item when they see one of something that's like they can spot a quality collectible, but I don't think they collect. Like at least not on the same level as you and Dad do.
Well, I mean, God, your dad and I didn't do that at that age either. I mean, that was kind of an older thing. But I think that your dad and I have talked about this in Tom as the time goes by. It may not be that you guys collect like we do, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. It's one of those things that we've done, and of course, if your dad passes down his collection to you, you won't have to. You pretty much got it all.
Yeah, that's like, I mean, good Lord, there's almost a story behind every single corner.
Oh, there is.
Corner of that room.
There is. Well, and then you get the benefit of you grew up there. You get
Yeah.
to go up and say, what was that like? I got a question for you. This is for you. Rob. What was it like as a kid? I would say kid in a toy store. You literally were a kid in a toy store.
Yeah,
What was that like?
First off, there's something my cousin Thomas said. It was like a commercial. I showed like kind of the same situation of a kid. It was like it had like he collected things like, but also like foods and things.
Mm-hmm.
And the kid saw mac and cheese and was like, "Ooh!" And he's like, "No, don't touch that. That's got a lot of value to it." And he's like, "Ooh, toys!" And he's like, "No.
These aren't play toys."
Yeah.
That's right.
And then he's like, "Mac and cheese you can't eat and toys you can't play with." This is a room of lies.
That's right. Room of lies. This is a room
Yeah.
of lies. Well, okay. So Anna, which is my Ashley's friend Kim's daughter, she walked in here and she summed it up. She goes, I know why you have all this. And I said, why? She goes, because each one of them is a memory of your childhood. And I went,
Yeah,
I'm crying. You're so right. It's like, that's right. It's like, yeah, that's exactly right. Everything is a reflection of my childhood. It really is. And there's that, my brother writes a lot of, he loves writing nostalgia. There, as you know, there are literally thousands of websites developed in, nostalgia. That's what they are, nostalgia sites, But one of the ones that I go to all the time is Dinosaur Dracula. The guy's a little younger than me. He's probably 6-7 years younger than me. Maybe even 8, 9, 10 years younger than me. But he's big time nostalgia guy. And, he's just a good writer. I like, looking at his stuff. And so, when I see, this kind of stuff, it is like, oh yeah, man, I remember Firefly playing in the dirt with him, and then your Cobra Commander, he's the cartoon come to life. I think of the TV show, and in particular, what I like about this style, JT, you and I, did I get you into GI Joe?
I think you did, because I remember I'd seen because I was a big Transformers kid, and
I don't know if I knew that.
Oh yeah, I had I remember Dad showed me the movie, the 80s movie as a kid. And I remember I asked for a Bumblebee. And he came back with one from the 2007 movie, which
Michael Bay movie?
Yeah, which had not been released yet. And I was like, what's this? He's not this is not the same guy I saw.
Right.
So then I saw the 2007 movie. And that kind of got me obsessed with robots that can
transform.
And so what I would do was I'd buy cartoons of there are 2 shows called Armada and Energon that came out. And both of them, the DVD sets would have commercials for some CG animated G.I. Joe movies.
Okay.
And that was my first exposure to kind of what
G.I. Joe was. Hasbro being they're the same brand. And you got to remember back when I was a kid, they came on TV back to back.
Yeah.
I think one was at 4, the other's at 4:30.
Yeah.
And I want to say Transformers came on first, but I can't remember. But they're both on WGN out of Chicago, which we got down here in Statesboro, Georgia. I was in Claxton, Hagen, Georgia at the time, but we got WGN. It was one of the channels they broadcast.
Same time zone.
Well, yeah. But you normally wouldn't pick up a Chicago channel. That's normally what you would do back then because it was. But they I guess rebroadcast it or whatever. But so when you and I were talking about it, this artwork style right here, while it's not spot on, it's almost like the action figure version of G.I. Joe Resolute.
Yeah, kind of updating it.
Yeah, and
because things like that, it's really cool to see Resolute. And don't get me wrong, Resolute's a really good movie.
Is it 8, 9 parts, something like that?
Yeah, but I think didn't they just release it as one?
They do, and they've got it on DVD now or Blu-ray too.
Yeah, how did it premiere? Was it online or?
The first time I ever heard about it, I've only seen it on YouTube. by the episode. So for those of you who don't know, G.I. Joe Resolute's like an 8 or 9 part G.I. Joe movie, and it's what would happen if G.I. Joe were actually going on.
If they somehow finally discovered bullets exist.
Yeah, if they found
figured out how to aim.
That's right. They figured out how to aim and bullets
Resolute.
exist. Because people die. Yeah. And it's like the kid, what we watched as a kid, this is what it would be like for adults,
Yeah.
And,
like if the cartoon aged with you,
right.
This is what it would be like.
And I think I think I may have mentioned this to your dad last time in the He-Man episode. That's exactly what Revelations was like.
Yeah,
and I think he took a page out of Hasbro's playbook for what to do with G.I. Joe, and if Kevin Smith watched
all
Resolute,
of a sudden characters are actually dying.
Right.
And all conveniently on one day suddenly.
That's right. Yeah, it's like, oh, wow, when bullets work now.
Like, I love the kind of inside joke when Skeletor's like, you finally used that sword for what it was meant to do, boy.
That's right, yeah.
And like, at first you think he's talking about using it to kill him. Then he's like, as the key to the... But I was like, oh, I'm spotting you, Kevin, what you're sliding it. Because Dad said, like, throughout the entire original show, 2 swords never clash.
That's right.
Which is weird.
They all had swords and armor and all kind of weapons, but swords never clashed. They didn't.
Which is weird because, like, in old Disney, it was like Peter Pan and Captain Hook. They could sword fight. And that was
a movie.
Yeah.
That was a movie. That wasn't... Okay, so the reason why that was is because I think it was the FCC during that time period. It was a children's television program time period. So you couldn't make it to where these characters were actually fighting with swords and with the intention to kill. Now, the lasers went everywhere, but when you saw a ship explosion or anything like that, you always saw the parachute.
Yeah, you always saw the parachute.
Yeah. If I'm not mistaken, though, there was one episode where I saw a plane blow up, and I think the editors just missed it, where you didn't see the parachute.
Oh,
so in the several year run there of G.I. Joe, only one cover member died, and it made up for Duke's 6 comas. Because he went into coma like every other episode. He was always doing that.
Yeah, like at that point, he's got like IVs in his room, just like waiting, like by his bed, just in case.
He's got his medical card waiting on it. That's right.
He's got like polish the catheter every day.
Yeah,
just in case.
Yeah, he's just ready.
Yeah,
we're ready. The doc has got he's ready for him. Yeah, that's right.
But that should remind me. Robot Chicken did a really funny episode where like I think his character's name is Junkrat, who had like
there was Muskrat and Junkyard Dog.
Yeah, and he had like who was the one who like wore like a football jersey and had a dog?
Oh, Junkyard Dog.
Yeah.
And Bazooka wore a football jersey too.
Yeah, I think.
By the way, he bit it in Resolute, and he had it coming.
Yeah,
I hated Bazooka.
And Junkyard's the dog.
He's the one. Junkyard Dog is the guy. Mutt is the dog.
Mutt's the dog.
Yeah.
They made like a gift for Roadblock. That's a giant chocolate statue of him for reasons. And Mutt ends up eating it. And he dies because it's made of chocolate. And like they add his name to the Wall of Fallen Heroes, only to realize Mutt's the first name on the Wall of Fallen Heroes.
He's the only.
Yeah, he's like, we really don't have any other.
Oh my God, the dog.
Yeah.
Well, that is so. It's true. Holy crap.
And he's like, didn't see wait a minute. Didn't like Beachhead get shot down? He's like, I parachuted to safety. And he's like, Scarlet, didn't you crash? And she's like, I just tucked and rolled. And he's like, well, I bet Cobra's wall is full of names. And they're like,
the one guy I talked about.
Yeah, and they're like, yo, Joe. And Cobra Coran's just staring at an empty wall. he's like, we need a name. He's like, you there? What's your name? He's like, Billy, sir.
And they made it.
And he's like, add one to the wall.
Add one to the wall.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Robot Chicken, you could tell those guys love the 80s too because they grew up the same exact thing. And I told your dad about this too, that same thing with Faker. He's blue! Yeah. The whole thing. I'm not gonna drop the full expletive on there.
Yeah.
But I always said that as a kid, and they got it too. They're like, yeah, he's blue. He doesn't look anything like He-Man. He's blue.
Yeah, and then he's like, me, He-Man. He's like, oh, and his personal pronouns
that's
wrapped
right.
up.
And he had robotics in his chest, for God's sake.
Yeah. And I know Dad complained that like they did not do the blue Faker. Or like didn't make it obvious.
Right.
Which, I mean, makes sense Which was clever how they implemented it. The Faker being underneath the He-Man.
Underneath the He-Man arm. Yeah, underneath the He-Man skin. And burn his arms off and or burn his flesh, ripped his arms off, and then cut him in half. So
yeah, overall, I enjoyed that first half of the season.
Yeah,
but don't get me wrong, there were weird moments. Like, I don't know why Triclops
became his
became like I don't know what the whole theme of Triclops becoming like the cyborg Pope was.
The
like,
cyborg Pope,
because that's like
he was more like the cyborg Charles Manson.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, this is weird. Well, I mean, like, because it makes sense when like technology replaces magic for a while.
Yeah, well, yeah, I think that's what they were trying to do. They were trying to say, okay, now that this is gone, now that you're doing away with technology or whatever, they're trying to replace it with religion. You know, they're trying to do that dogma take on it. And Kevin Smith, the director and writer of Dogma,
also made.
I mean, that's right. So
he definitely's got like
he's digging into his resource material there. There's no doubt about that. And what his theme is really.
I actually didn't know if you look in the credits, Stinkor is played by Jason Mewes.
That's right. I did see that.
I didn't notice that until Dad pointed out.
Well, I didn't see it in the credits. What I did was I watched the making of it. You know, when they did they brought in Mark Hamill and asked him questions and stuff. And Jason Mewes was Stinkor. Now that I went back and listened to it, it's, he's Stinkor. Yeah, no doubt. But anyway, well, guys, I think this wraps up our episode today, right, JD? Well, thank you for being. Did you have a good time?
Oh yeah.
Did you? Yeah. You learned a lot. Was it all the glamour and glory that you thought would be in my normal man cave with a light and a nice camera?
With the sight of actually holding a loaded shotgun right off the screen, yeah.
That's right. Do what you say.
Yeah, better be smiling.
That's right. Yeah. Look ahead of the camera. That's right.
Smile and wave.
Well, guys, for the Gen X Vault, this has been our love letter to Legend of Zelda. I am Chris Mitchell.
I am JT Kennedy.
And we'll have to have him back as a guest speaker next time on the Gen X Vault.